Hi there, I'm Cody. I work here at Grasshopper, and I'm here to tell you about core values, and specifically the core value of your team. Now, when I think about your team, I think about people listening to each other, working well with each other, maybe someone on your team who pitches in to help you out when you're overloaded with work and lightens your load a little bit. And I also think about a working style that helps to build trust and respect across the whole company, and so that someone who often demonstrates this value is someone that you want to work with on a project, or just be friends with, because they're looking out for you all the time. Now, if you really want to get into your team, I think the best way to learn about it is through a few bad examples. The first bad example that I can think of for your team, and it's definitely not someone you would want to emulate if you came to work at Grasshopper, is Bernie Madoff. When you look at everything he's done, I think if you were to ask his investors if he had been working to build trust and respect, they'd probably say no, because he took all their money. The next bad example I can think of is Wesley Snipes. Now, when I think of it, I think of the United States as a great big team, and we're all teammates. And part of being a teammate is paying your taxes. Now, Mr. Snipes did not do that, and in doing so, he kind of let the rest of the team down. And the final bad example for your team is Alex Rodriguez of the New York Yankees. I actually don't know that much about his working style, but he just comes across as a bit of a prima donna to me, and he kind of rubs me the wrong way. When I think of some examples of your team that I've seen personally while I've been here at Grasshopper, one great example I can think of involves my teammate Steve Swartzlander here in the Austin office. Steve and I were both working on the phone system that all of our customers use, and this was right when we were rewriting everything. And so one big part of making sure that our software is ready for customers is to put it under a really intensive load test where we send thousands of calls at the phone system and make sure it doesn't, blow up the server room. And so this was one of the very first times that we were load testing this particular piece of software, and I ran it a few times throughout the day, and it wasn't going very well at all. And it was kind of one of those problems where you just sit there and you focus and you look at the clock and it's like midnight or something like that, and you're not even paying attention, and your wife probably thinks you've been kidnapped or something. Well, like I said, this was one of those nights, and I ended up working on this till like 4 or 5 in the morning, just really in deep on this problem, trying to figure it out. And there were a lot of times I wanted to yank the power cord out of my computer and run out of here screaming because it was so frustrating. But I was really lucky that night because Steve had stayed here to help me. And the load testing was actually my responsibility. It wasn't something that anyone was going to look down on Steve for if it didn't work. But Steve knew how much stress I was under, and so he stayed here to help me and kind of be my support for the evening, and keep me from going to sleep here in my office and getting woken up by the cleaning crew, which would have been very strange. One other example that where I think I've demonstrated this core value is when is also the same kind of time period when we were rewriting everything for the new Grasshopper platform. And we have this one project that we call HBA, which is essentially our billing system. And HBA, we made this technical decision early on where we were going to save all of these IDs for, accounts and subscriptions and features and all this stuff. They were all saved as strings of characters in the database. And, that doesn't sound like much, but every other project, we weren't saving those IDs as strings of characters. We were saving them as actual like an array of bytes, so it's just like a big chunk of hexadecimal. The data looked the same whether it's a string or that the GUID identifier that I'm talking about. So it would be easy to look at that and just say, well, it's no big deal to just switch from one to the other. But it was a huge deal to switch from one to the other. I wasn't on HBA at the time, but I heard a lot of people talking about how difficult it would be to do this, and I had done well that week. I had gotten ahead of my workload, so I said, you know what, guys, I'm going to jump in and try and help you out and swap these identifiers from strings to GUIDs. And so I jumped in and I did it, and I thought it would take me a few hours, but it ended up taking 13 or 14 hours for me to do this. And it was essentially replacing, these 3 lines of code with these 3 lines of code, maybe 1,000 different places throughout the application every single time we go to the database. It was pretty intense, especially since I hadn't seen the application before and I didn't know much about it. But I was able to get it done, and it worked pretty well. And I know the rest of the team really appreciated me making the effort, because it meant that they could stay focused on what it was that they were supposed to deliver for that week. And it just kind of increased the likelihood of success for the project. And I think that's ultimately what your team is about. Just trying to go above and beyond for your teammates, knowing that they'll do the same for you, and it results in a really cool work environment. Okay, I'm done.